Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Dani Laurel. Now on to some headlines. President Bongbong Marcos has approved zero tariffs on electric vehicles for the next 5 years. The tariff removal aims to encourage consumers to use cleaner and greener cars. The zero tariff is also seen to boost the local EV market and support the shift to emerging technologies. After 5 years, a 30% tariff will be slapped on electric vehicles. The Energy Department has signed a deal for a study on electric vehicle charging stations using renewables. DOE Secretary Rafael Lotilla said the tripartite agreement involves two shell companies. It covers the monitoring and verification of energy efficiency through the use of renewable energy. The results will be used by the DOE to develop its programs for the operation of EV charging stations. Meanwhile, markets all over Asia are set to be sleepy as the Lunar New Year celebrations kick in. But on the home front, it's still buy on the dips. And here to share his picks, we have with us Royce Aguilar, Deputy Head for Retail Research over at First Metro Securities. Hi, Royce. Happy New Year.
Hi Danny. Hi everyone. Happy New Year.
Okay, Royce, let's kick off with this New Year bang when it comes to our index. No, we've been up. We saw a bullish run in the first few weeks of the year, but it seems that the resistance level is pretty strong and still a pullback here. 7,000. It doesn't seem to be breaking much above that. What is the direction here, at least in the short term?
Yeah, definitely in the short term. Well, if you take a look at, you're correct. There's a resistance at around 7,000 level, right? It's finding it hard to break much above 7,000, right? But if you take a look at the recent pullback, it has been healthy. So this is actually a good sign. It has been trading near at overbought levels for the past few sessions. So there's really room for pullback here. The question is how sustainable can the rally be? So far, price action alone, the healthy pullback is a welcome development, right? And if you take a look at the fundamentals, there's headlines in the US that inflation is peaking, right? Producer price index also showing that it's peaking. Of course, here in the Philippines, hard to see, but it's being reflected in the currency that the dollar is relatively weakening, right? So there's room for peso to go up. Hence, equities showing strength also, and there's a lot of optimism regarding that inflation could peak globally, so the bond yields could also peak. So there's really room for equities to really go up. So that's where the optimism is coming from.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Just to add to that, to nuance that a little bit, is this because of better than expected economic fundamentals domestically that's coming out? Like you mentioned, some issues on inflation. Finally, we're seeing the peak, or is this just foreign buyers finally seeing us, cheaper, catching up, and re-entering after such a long exodus or drought?
That's a good point, because if you take a look at the past year to date, month to date, there's a lot of foreign buying, at least nearly 2 billion pesos already, right? So at the end of the day, if you take a look at the reports of the strategy of foreign brokers, they're really gearing towards emerging markets, including China. So the optimism in Chinese open is spilling over to us. Right?
Okay.
But the fundamentals also there, right? In terms of our recovery prospects, right? Barring any recession concerns or another black swan event, there's really room for emerging markets to outperform this year. What's consensus is US, they're either neutral or underweight US. So where do you find yield? And the consensus is emerging markets, China, and then spill over to us. So you're correct. Foreign buying is definitely a driver for this one. We've been waiting for so long for foreigners to come back, and we're seeing it slightly this year.
Compare us to the rest of Asia, Royce. How are we faring? When I look at the charts, to my end, we seem to be going in the opposite direction of all the other Asian markets that have been shaky, at least for the year to date. No, we are the only ones that have been in this so-called bull market. Why is that the case?
Well, that's a good observation. I think at the end of the day, if you take a look at China reopening, but there's a caveat for China. There's a lot of COVID cases there, so there's a bit of hesitancy. But if you take a look for the likes of Philippines, the currency is also normalizing. Not much COVID issue. Probably optimism of new administration, new policies. So I think that those are the reasons that why we're a bit outperforming. But it cannot be denied that most of our gains can still be attributed to what's happening or the strategy of other foreign investors gearing towards emerging markets. So we have to take that in consideration as well. It's not only locally.
Okay, now let's talk about the local issues. Kicking off with consumption stocks. What is your view here? Inflation biting into consumers' pockets. I mean, anecdotally, we feel that, diba? Like less and less money to spend even in supermarkets. But the stock prices, they don't seem to be going in a specific direction here. Are these consumption stocks going to be doing well? Food, malls, supermarkets?
Yeah, okay. Again, another good question. And actually, for our strategy, inflation, while inflation may peak globally, in the Philippines, it's still something to watch out for. As a matter of fact, we are looking at consumer staple names,
Okay.
right now, maybe because of we're seeing the effect of down trading, right? For example, like you're for example, a specific example, you're buying Delimondo corned beef, but you're feeling that inflation is there's the effect of inflation. You can down trade a bit, probably
Okay.
Argentina, corned beef, etc. Something like that. That's one example. Hence, we're looking at the likes of CNPF, RHI, URC as a hedge.
Okay.
Right? So
Interesting.
definitely, those are names that you would like to be part of your portfolio. Because if you take a look, for example, the CNPF since 2020, one of the more underrated names in the index, but share price, earnings wise, it has outperformed the past years since the pandemic. So those
People
names
still buying those
definitely
canned foods.
still
Okay.
should be considered.
What about the food or restaurants industry?
Well, for the food
we see
restaurants,
people
yeah.
eating out pa rin eh, 'di ba? Despite the costs eh. How is that gonna fare?
Well, I think if you take a look at the names here today, it's mostly really going up mainly because of the optimism that inflation is going to peak. But at the end of the day, for restaurants, revenue-wise, it's going to recover. But cost-wise, it's still going to be a bit hurtful for them. Not only because of labor, but you can see the higher cost of raw materials. So that's
Okay.
going to affect them at least early part of this year. We are seeing the administration try to solve by importing and the like. So it could be a short-term solution. But at the end of the day, the numbers will still reflect on these names because it's going to take some time for them to adjust anyways. And they're going to pass on cost to customers, so revenues might be affected. That's why we prefer consumer staple names. But revenue-wise, definitely these food restaurants will show strong growth. It's just a matter of cost also will also go up. So margins can be tight.
Okay, interesting observations there. Let's move on to a specific stock that I wanted to discuss with you, and that is Metro Pacific. With some, they even said it already that they are considering delisting, and that
Correct.
when they said that actually raised the share price. I mean, when you look at it, it's up almost 20% year to date. What's going on here? Why are shareholders supposedly happy with a possible delisting?
I think it's not necessarily because they're happy and stuff. I think it's more of the expectation, or at least based on the recent rumors that if MPI will delist, the tender offer price will be at a premium compared to the previous price prior to the rumor
Okay.
getting out. Before 3.4,
Oo.
right now it's 4. So there's rumor that whoever will be the buyer, the tender offer price will be generous, will be
Okay.
higher than the previous price. So I think it's more of that expectation. And based on the language of MPI, it seems like they're really listening to interested buyers, and probably at the right price, at the best type of transaction, they will accept the deal. That's based on their language. So
Is this something that might be a trend for holding companies? Is this something worrying for equity markets where you want more listings, I imagine, rather than delistings? So what is going on here? Is that specific to this company, or is this a certain trend that we might be seeing?
I think it's a little bit of both, because for MPI specifically, it has been undervalued for so long. It has been undervalued for so long. Like if you take a look at brokerage reports, that's the main thesis that why you should buy MPI, because it's so cheap. But
Okay.
in terms of the actual share price movement, it has been not as exciting as other index names, right? It has been in the middle for years. But if you take a look at the underlying value, the growth in net income, it's actually there. So it's just a matter of there are a lot of reasons why investors are not that keen on MPI, especially foreigners. Probably what I'm hearing is too much diversified,
Okay.
right? But at the end of the day, there's value, and some companies see that value. Hence, they're willing to pay at a premium because there are articles saying it's 60% below now. It makes sense because it is below, right? It's trading way below book value. So there's really value in the name. So
Target price for
there's really-
MPIC, Royce.
Yeah,
Is
go ahead.
target price, is this already fully valued at this point after a 20% jump?
Not yet.
Talaga?
Again, it's still trading way below book value, right? If you take a look at consensus at around 5 to 6 pesos at least, that's the consensus target price for MPI. And I understand that value. It's just so happened in terms of its attractiveness, especially to foreign investors, they have a lot of reservations for the stock. So yeah, those
Okay,
will have
very-
to be considered also.
Very interesting. So again, another stock to be watching out for there. Thank you so much for those insights, Royce Aguilar, Deputy Head for Retail Research over at First Metro Securities.
Thank you.
Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Dani Laurel. Now, ICTSI's longtime Chief Financial Officer Rafael Consing Jr. is the new Presidential Advisor on Investment and Economic Affairs. The Presidential Communications Office confirmed Consing's appointment on Thursday. In a disclosure to the Philippine Stock Exchange, Razon-led ICTSI said Consing is retiring from his role as CFO and Compliance Officer immediately. Consing worked at ICTSI for 15 years, with the last 7 years as CFO. ICTSI Chairman and President Enrique Razon thanked Consing for his service to the company and congratulated him on his new role outside of ICTSI. Now, the country's balance of payments deficit swelled to a record high of $7.3 billion in 2022. The central bank said the full year 2022 BOP deficit was a sharp reversal from the $1.35 billion surplus in 2021. It explained that this was due to the widening trade and goods deficit as goods imports continued to surpass goods exports. That is on the back of the increase in international commodity prices and the resumption in domestic economic activities. Globe Telecom says its $150 million subsea cable project is on track for completion in April. The domestic submarine cable network project is seen to provide equitable and reliable connectivity across the country. This project has a total cable distance of 2,500 kilometers, and it will soon kick off landing cables in 9 remaining segments that cover 13 sites. Globe said the project started in Subic, Zambales, July last year and recently completed 15 segments across the country. For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online, or visit our website, that's onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now. That's at www.signalplay.com, and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Danny Laurel. Join us again at 11:15 a.m. We are One News, all sides, all the time.